Now, honorable senators, we were scheduled to receive this morning 3 CSs to respond to the questions are listed in the order paper. Unfortunately, we have since received communication from the 3 CSs that they will not be able to attend this session for purpose of responding to these questions. As far as question number 18 is concerned, we received a letter last evening, in fact this morning, that the CS in charge of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs is out of the country on delegated duties, and therefore he will not be able to be with us this morning for purpose of responding to question number 18, which is a question that was asked by Honorable Senator Lominen. So that is as far as question number 18 goes. As far as question number 67, which is a question that was asked by the Honorable Senator Kathuri Murungi, directed to the CS Treasury. Again, we did receive a letter this morning from the CS Treasury indicating that this question would have been asked, would have been responded by the CS Health instead of CS Treasury. And therefore, in the communication by the CS Treasury, he indicated that this question ought to be directed to the CS Health instead of Treasury. And therefore, for those reasons contained in this letter, he is unable to be present today for purpose of responding to that question. As far as question number 59, 79, 78, and 79, these are 4 questions that have been directed to the CS Treasury. Again, a communication was received yesterday indicating that the CS had prior arrangements in regard to COP28 being held in Dubai, and therefore he is not available to appear before the Senate for purposes of responding to those 4 questions. Honorable Senators, with this communication, with these letters therefore from the CSs, it means therefore that we have no CS today morning for purposes of responding to any of these questions. And therefore we will proceed with other orders. Yes, Senator Boni.
Mr. Speaker, sir, we hear you. But from your communication, the Prime Cabinet Secretary has alerted Senate this morning. The Cabinet Secretary at the National Treasury has alerted the Senate this morning. Mr. Speaker, it should also occur to this House that this is not the first time the Prime Cabinet Secretary is failing to appear before this House. And, Mr. Speaker, if this does not imply attitude, then what does? The Cabinet Secretary has an attitude about this House. He thinks, Mr. Speaker, that the House is waiting for him so that this morning it discovers that he's not around. He had a 7-day window during which he knew he was going to travel or he was traveling. He should have informed us. This is the time for now us to sanction the Prime Cabinet Secretary so that he respects the House of Equity that represents the 47 counties of Kenya. This cabinet, the current cabinet, Mr. Speaker, sir, if we don't call it to order as Parliament, they are going to run roughshod on all Kenyans. Same applies to Professor Ndung'u. Mr. Speaker, probably Shingo Upande, quote unquote, we can accept the one who is in Dubai because he had the courtesy of informing us earlier. But these two, and they represent two critical portfolios, they must be here. I beg you today on this standing order, you sanction them. Otherwise Parliament will start looking like a barasa in Malinya, in Mutuapa, in Iloyangilani. That cannot be the case. In Maua, who are they to challenge Senate? Who? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wambua.
Mr. Speaker, we must set the record straight. When sufficient notice is given to a cabinet secretary to appear before a committee of parliament, there can never be an excuse for not appearing. Being on a trip abroad is not a reason for not appearing before a committee of the Senate. It's actually a very shameful excuse. Mr. Speaker, I am impressed by the formulators of our Constitution, the drafters of our Constitution. Because in there, Mr. Speaker, they recognize that the first responsibility and function of the President is to be answerable to Parliament. If the President, Mr. Speaker, is answerable to Parliament, then Cabinet Secretaries who serve at the pleasure of the President must be 10 times answerable to Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I am a bit concerned because, and I speak for the minority side, you know, Mr. Speaker, we had stayed away from these morning sessions on account of a legitimate court process. And once that process has ended, Mr. Speaker, we are back to engage. I don't know whether the cabinet secretaries are afraid of the presence of the minority side in the House and they don't want to face the tough questions that they have to face. Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with you. Because if we don't nip this thing on the bud now, then it will become the order of the day, and cabinet secretaries will be giving you excuse after excuse why they cannot appear before the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I implore you to find reason in our own standing orders and in the Constitution to censure these cabinet secretaries and ensure that they appear before the Senate to respond to questions. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, you know, there is a casualness that is creeping in, that a cabinet secretary would have the audacity to write to the Speaker of the Senate of the Republic of Kenya in the morning and tell him that I'm not going to appear before the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I think I know you, Mr. Speaker. Do something. Don't allow these people to mock you because they are mocking you. Mr. Speaker, you sit there for and on behalf of 47 delegations in this country, 47 counties. The questions that we are asking these cabinet secretaries are not on our own behalf. We are asking these questions for the benefit of the people of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, do something. I thank you.
Senator Kathure.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, also for allowing me to give a comment on this evolving trend by the CSs. Honorable Speaker, let me first undo the case of my question, which I directed to the CS Treasury. And Honorable Speaker, the CS Treasury has been this question for almost 3 months now. It is scheduled last week, it did not appear, then another time it did the same. But if you look at the content of my question, it is the money which has not been disbursed to NHIF, because NHIF did their work, they awarded these victims, but then Treasury has not been able to release 11.6 billion to NHIF so that they can pay. So, Mr. Speaker, when the CS now asks us to go to the Minister of Health, he is running away from his responsibility. The Minister of Health does not allocate budgets. If they have given the money that they need is 11.6 to pay these people, then Treasury should be held responsible so that they can be able to pay these victims. These people are already dead, and the beneficiaries or their kins are following this money day in, day out. I have one case which made me to do this and investigate from one of my constituents from Meru, who the wife died due to COVID in 2020. But to date, he is owed 7 million by NHIF. He has followed this money. I have assisted him through the Ministry of Health, but still, Mr. Speaker, he is always referred to Treasury. So that is why I don't know how you guide me to go ahead, because this question is like the CS is dropping because of the responsibility that he should do. So, Mr. Speaker, I will seek your guidance also to direct that the CS should appear himself, Treasury CS, so that he can be able to answer this question, because I can see he's running away from it. Also, Mr. Speaker, you know you are the chair of SBC, which allocates the businesses of this House. And you know we have no time before the end of this session. So today morning, you allocated time for these CSs and put aside all other businesses that we have in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, when we receive letters in the morning that the CS is not appearing, and we have a lot of pending business, Mr. Speaker, I feel these CSs are not respecting this House, and this is the right time to crack the whip. So, Mr. Speaker, we are very committed to do the work that we are elected to do. And if the CSs are not honoring this House, then they should be sanctioned, Mr. Speaker, so that they can be able to respect this House. This is an honorable House of 47 delegations, and the other 27 elected senators. So, Mr. Speaker, I think with your wisdom, before the end of this session, so that the next year we start on a clean footing, you should really do a letter, especially to the end of state, because he has the responsibility. And he's the one actually who supported the CSs to appear in the two houses. So, Mr. Speaker, I think, you know, this is the first time Senator Sifuna has clapped when I'm giving any. Yeah, so, Mr. Speaker, I want to end there so that at least Senator Sifuna can handle to where I have left. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Karungu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we were elected to this House, the President implored us to amend our standing orders for the CSs to appear before us. We had the support of the head of state. So when they don't appear, they don't just show contempt to this House, also to the President of this Republic. And Mr. Speaker, as a feeling of many members, please crack the whip. My committee on roads, transportation and housing, on Monday, after inviting the governor of Kajiado, Olelenku, to appear before us, even after summoning him, he had the audacity of saying that he wouldn't appear 45 minutes before the time the meeting was supposed to start. Mr. Speaker, we fined him, or we gave him a suspended sentence, and fined him $500,000. And if does not appear tomorrow, it will take effect. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, and I want the House to listen to me, because we need to do things differently. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we also fined the governor of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja, who happened to be one time a senator of this great county of Nairobi. We have invited him since November 2022. We are in November 2023, 6 times, and he has never appeared, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we gave that fine because we know he won't even appear tomorrow.
And if he doesn't, Mr. Speaker, we are going to invoke Section 19 of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, that he should be arrested and brought to the committee, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is a high time that this House is taken with seriousness it deserves, Mr. Speaker. And you know, and especially those governors who are senators, they are giving this House a bad name. I mean, they should be the one to really respect this House, because they have been here for about 10 years. And they are the one who are not even appearing in committees. Even my governor of Kiambu, Kimani Wamatangi, Mr. Speaker, has been invited about 6 times. He has not appeared. I think we should crack the whip, because for us, in future, we want to be governors, and we don't want people to say senators were the worst governors. So we have to do it today. And for the CSs who did not appear today, Mr. Speaker, crack the whip. Give them a fine. Invoke Section 19. Because if you don't do that, we will receive the apologies a minute before we get into the House. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For me, I want to weigh in on the issue of the disrespect that the Senate is receiving from this cabinet, Mr. Speaker. I believe that when the Kenya Kwanza government ran for office, we are here for the hustler nation, for the people. What else are the cabinet secretaries so busy doing that they cannot come here to answer questions that the hustlers are asking, Mr. Speaker? Because for me today, I was looking forward to engaging with the Minister of Energy, Mr. Speaker. The bills on KPLC are crazy. The rogue billing, there's a lot of things that are happening under KPLC. And we have questions for the people who have sent us here. We have questions, Mr. Speaker. And I think at the rate at which it's going, Mr. Speaker, then I employ the President to kindly make sure that we have the chief administrative secretaries. Because if the cabinet secretaries are now tired of their jobs, let their assistants come in and do that job, Mr. Speaker. It is at this point when we would really appreciate that if the CSs are not there, they are not available, they are busy, they are traveling, whatever it is they are doing, then their assistants, Mr. Speaker, and those people who are already sworn in, let them come, we engage them. This is part of the duties that they could have been doing. The CASs now are sitting somewhere, and they could have been serving this country, Mr. Speaker. So I urge that even as you crack the whip, perhaps it is now necessary, and I hope that opposition can see the role, some of the duties and responsibilities that the CASs were going to have. I hope that they can see that it is at this point, we would have gotten the assistant ministers, Mr. Speaker, to tell us what is happening. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, correct me if I'm wrong, but the High Court found that the position of CSS were unconstitutional. We are not going to substitute the people responsible for the ministries for unconstitutional office holders. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if you brought those CSs here, I would not partake of that session. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I think it's the Bible that says that all good things come to those who wait. I don't know if it's the Bible. The Christian fundamentalists are on the other side, they will clarify. Mr. Speaker, I am extremely happy that every single day we have indicated as members of a minority on this floor, because you will remember that this question of appearance of CSs on the floor of this House originated from a presidential memo. It was the president's own idea, sending his own cabinet secretaries to the floor of this House. We, of course, were in opposition of that particular move because we thought, or it was our thinking then, that it was an unconstitutional way to go around constitutional provisions to bring them before the floor of the House. We actually filed a constitutional reference before the High Court. The High Court disagreed with us and said there's nothing wrong with the CSs appearing before the floor of the Senate. And it is not a coincidence that just the second week when the members of the opposition want to engage robustly with these people, they're already running away, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't make any sense. I was looking forward, because we have a serious controversy in this country about the G2G deal. I wanted to look the CS Energy in his eyes and ask him those questions that I've written down here, Mr. Speaker. But he has run away. And this is becoming a habit, even in the committees. My chair of the Housing Committee has just elucidated what we're going through in the committees of the House. Because, Mr. Speaker, you invite a governor to answer questions about his own people. The people of Jericho, Lumumba, Imaringo were in the committee yesterday waiting to ask questions through their senator to the governor of Nairobi. He just says he has traveled. And my suspicion, Mr. Speaker, is that this COP28 that is happening in Dubai is going to be one of the biggest scandals in this country. When the final list of the number of Kenyans who have gone to Dubai is published, we will be embarrassed as a country. I am happy that as a senator I was told there is no money in the Senate, so I decided to just stay at home. Mr. Speaker, you are aware of this issue. So for us, because some of us have serious contributions to make on the matter of climate change and the environment, Mr. Speaker, but we were denied that opportunity. Now my brother Musalia Mudavadi has gone there. I doubt if he can be more eloquent on issues about the environment as I would have been in Dubai, Mr. Speaker. But anyway, let us see what will come out of that particular conference. So we want to say this, Mr. Speaker. In fact, this morning session was created specifically for these cabinet secretaries. We should have been having our committee meetings.
What is the point of order, Senator Boni?
Mr. Speaker, you have heard the remarks by the distinguished Senator of Nairobi about the Cabinet Secretary. Mr. Speaker, is he in order to drag into this House the fights between him and Mudavadi over the matter of kingship in their community? Is he in order, Mr. Speaker, to bring such a matter here?
Senator Boni, in fact, you're out of order to the extent that you're rising on a point of order on a senator who is contributing on a point of order. To that extent, your point of order is overruled. Conclude, Senator Sifon.
Mr. Speaker, let me assure Senator Khalwale that I am not in competition for anything with Musalia Mudavadi. I don't see myself competing with him for anything. I'm just saying, and the communication from the Speaker came that he has traveled to COP. I'm just wondering, because you know, this issue of climate change can better be elucidated. I would rather we send Esther Okenyuri, Senator Okenyuri, or my sister Gloria, because the younger generation have a greater appreciation of these matters than some of these guys. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I am deeply disappointed, and we as a House must put our foot down. I am very happy with the Chair of Transport and Housing, the Honorable Senator Thangwa, that he doesn't joke when it comes to respect for the people and the respect of committees of this House. He has fined people liberally, and I want to encourage you, Chairman, that we are all behind you as senators in that committee. Arrest people, drag them before this House, because some of them, they just fly in and fly out, Mr. Speaker, wanasema Kiswahili, wanabadilisha nguo bandarini. We want them to be arrested at the bandari when they are changing their clothes, to be brought before committees of this House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mgatana.
Bwana Spika, mimi nilikuwa natarajia kumwona waziri wa kawi Mheshimiwa Chirchir, kwa sababu watu wa Tana River wanajua KETRACO walilipwa pesa ili zile waya zao zipite kwa mashamba ya watu, na watu wanajua mamilioni yalilipwa, lakini wananchi hawakupata hizo pesa. Wananchi wa Tana River wanangojea kuelezwa hizo pesa ziko wapi. Alafu waziri anakosa kukuja na wananchi wanamngojea. Mimi Bwana Spika, ningependa kutoa maoni yangu ya kwamba utoe faini sio ya 1,500, lakini faini ya milioni 1 kwa kila waziri ambaye anakosa kufika kwa bunge la Senate. Kisha Bwana Spika, uandike barua kwa rais kwamba wakati wa kufuta kazi mawaziri, wa kwanza wa kufutwa ni hawa mawaziri ambao wanakosa kufika kujibu maswali ya wananchi. Kwa hayo mengi Bwana Spika, naomba uchukue mkono wako wa nguvu, watie adabu hawa watu, manake wanatukosea heshima. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Beatrice Ogola.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, from the word go, this morning I was very keen on the appearance of the respective cabinet secretaries, and particularly, Honorable Speaker, I really wanted to engage the CS Energy and Petroleum. Honorable Speaker, 1 year ago, I raised an issue of faulty transformers in Homa Bay County. And rightfully, a response was provided to the Energy Committee, and commitments were made by the same CS on repairs that were to be done by the end of July 2022. Honorable Speaker, up to date, no repair has been undertaken as was committed by Kenya Power and REA in Homa Bay County. And it is on that note that I was really interested in the question that was given by Senator James Murango on the replacement of defective power transformers in Mwea constituency. Honorable Speaker, going forward to Senator Mohamed Chute's question, you see the disruption of power supply in most parts of the country. Honorable Speaker, in the last 3 months, we have seen historical blackouts in this country, one ranging for 20 hours, Honorable Speaker, nationwide, and another just the other Saturday for the whole night. Honorable Speaker, this house is a house of representation. The senators here, when they ask questions, they are representing their constituents, and it is by the coming of the cabinet secretaries here that we can get the different responses to the concerns of Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, on the issue that has been mentioned on COP28, I want to state that the issues of climate change are very important. We can see the raging floods all over the county and its effect, and so I support the conference that is ongoing in Dubai and is looking forward to participating. And Honorable Speaker, as I wound up, I did not get the chance, but I want to add my voice in welcoming the honorable members of the County Assembly of Migori, that in the membership present here, some honorable members have worked with in the past in the executive, and some are friends, and we welcome you to the Senate and hope we will continue working together. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I must contribute to this because some of us, we've been around for some time. I remember the second Senate. We used to have a lot of issues with cabinet secretaries where even National Assembly was saying ministers should not appear before Senate. It was a long fight for us to have cabinet secretaries appear before Senate. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I remember in the first Senate, we used to respond even to the questions or statements by members on the floor of the House instead of actually going to committees, just to improve the way issues are responded to. That never worked. In the second Senate, we thought maybe by taking statements to the committees, things are going to be better. But let me say here, Mr. Speaker, we thought, and I think the government went through a very long process to make sure that cabinet secretaries appear before Senate so that we can have direct engagement with them to respond to the issues raised by members and concerns of also members of public. Mr. Speaker, I remember one time we even gotten a warrant of arrest against the then Muranga governor because he refused to appear before a certain committee. Unfortunately, we were frustrated by the IG, we are frustrated by the courts until that guy escaped that warrant of arrest. Mr. Speaker, if we let this go, today none of them appeared here. Next week, the same thing will happen again. Mr. Speaker, we must take a serious action today, not tomorrow. And again, Mr. Speaker, as per our standing orders, if the statements that we have currently are not responded to, that means it will lapse by the time we come back. Please, can you take serious action against these cabinet secretaries who are actually frustrating this House? And I know when they are called by National Assembly, they come running. But to the Senate, they see like this is a lesser house. We must show them that we are equal as far as responsibility is concerned. I thank you.
Senator Kenywa.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza kabisa Bwana Spika, hawa mawaziri inaonyeshana kana kwamba hawana heshima yoyote na seneti. Bwana Spika, hawa mawaziri walianza kwa kukejeli na kudhihaki kamati zetu Bwana Spika. Wakiitwa katika kamati hawakuji. Na hata hawasemi chochote Bwana Spika. Sasa wameona ya kwamba tayari wamehitimu Bwana Spika kutoka kwa kamati, sasa wanataka kukujaribu wewe kama spika wa seneti Bwana Spika. Wanangoja kwa hamu na gamu waone utafanya nini Bwana Spika. Usipofanya jambo leo Bwana Spika, seneti itakuwa imezama Bwana Spika. Lakini mimi nina imani ya kwamba wewe kama spika wetu Bwana Spika, najua utafanya jambo. Kwa sababu sisi tulikuja hapa, mimi nilikuja hapa asubuhi mapema, kisa na maana ndio niweze kuona waziri wa kawi Bwana Spika. Nimwambie ni mipango gani alionayo Bwana Spika, kwa sababu sehemu nyingi za Laikipia kwa sababu ya maji Bwana Spika hatuna stima Bwana Spika. Nilitaka kujua ni mipango gani alionayo Bwana Spika, lakini sababu ambazo tunapewa Bwana Spika si sababu ambazo zinatosha Bwana Spika. Hata iko waziri anakuambia asubuhi ya kwamba yeye alikuwa na mipango ingine maalum Bwana Spika, na katiba ya Kenya inasema ya kwamba katika kipengele cha kwanza kinasema nguvu ni zina wananchi wa Kenya Bwana Spika, na sisi ndio tunawakilisha wale wananchi wa Kenya Bwana Spika. Ninangoja kwa hamu nione maamuzi yako Bwana Spika. Katika kamati yetu nataka kumshukuru mwenyekiti Karungo Wadhangwa. Jana alifanya jambo Bwana Spika, alifanya jambo na Wakenya wakaona amefanya jambo. Sasa Bwana Spika, Mswahili anasema kizaliwacho ni kizuri kushinda kinachokizaa. Bwana Spika, ninangoja. Nashukuru.
Senator Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to this important motion, this important debate. Honorable Speaker, I think what we are discussing is not happening for the first time. Members have complained before about cabinet secretaries not responding in good time, not just for the plenary, but also for the committees. Mr. Speaker, I believe this is the time for us to make a determination as to whether the Senate is a house of parliament or a house of jokes. Mr. Speaker, it is, I think, the highest state of disrespect for cabinet secretaries to receive notification to appear in the Senate at least 14 days to the day they are coming, for them to send you a letter the morning that they are supposed to appear in the Senate. Mr. Speaker, that is the highest demonstration of disrespect for this House. It means they think senators don't have anything to do. Senators can just be on a notice of a few minutes. Their meetings can be called off. We need to send a message that that is not acceptable. We also need to send a message that their own boss, who actually wanted this session to happen, had something serious in mind when he actually proposed that we change standing orders to accommodate them. Mr. Speaker, I suggest that apart from them being summoned, the next appearance, the 3 cabinet secretaries should appear without fail, even if we have others, so that if necessary, that session should be extended in order for the meetings to be met. I also suggest that the Prime Cabinet Secretary should also be additionally requested to confer with the other cabinet secretaries to convey the seriousness with which this House takes this session, and for them to commit to appear to this. And I suggest, as DS says, the excuse by CS Treasury is not acceptable. Did he just interpret the questions this morning? He has had these questions for 3 weeks. I think they are joking with this House. Mr. Speaker, please crack the whip.
Senator Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to know if the letter that went to the CS has got the clause of Standing Order 51C5. 51C5 reads, a Cabinet Secretary shall provide a physical and electronic copy of a response to a question at least 24 hours before appearing before the Senate. If you go to 51D, this is also very clear, Honorable Speaker. The Senate may, where a Cabinet Secretary fails without reasonable cause to appear and respond to questions under this part, move a motion to censure the Cabinet Secretary. Honorable Speaker, I don't know if the letter has got these standing orders written on them. Honorable Speaker, I was to travel to Marsabit yesterday. Because of the question that I posed to the minister in regards to public interest, or in regards to the electricity issues some months back, that this country was in darkness for almost 20 hours. And this question was very simple, Honorable Speaker. We have a problem. Is this problem going to repeat? What caused this problem? Who is going to pay that cost? Today, the Cabinet Secretary is not here to answer those questions, unfortunately. Honorable Speaker, I would also want to support what Senator Katuri has said. A widow from Marsabit asked me, she lost her husband about 3 years ago, Jinia Guyo from Marsabit, and she asked me to go to NHIF to see if she can get the dues that's supposed to be payable to her. When I went to NHIF, I was referred back to Ministry of the Treasury. I was told the money is going to be paid from the Treasury. And today, the letter we received today is the Treasury CS is saying this is not his responsibility. It is the responsibility of the Ministry of Health. Honorable Speaker, I know very well, even Senator Kaduri knows very well, that he was also referred back to the Treasury. And he should come here and tell us what part he can be responsible of. And then the other part he can leave the Ministry of Health to deal with. Honorable Speaker, finally, I'd want to say, Honorable Speaker, please take some action. You remember when I brought the vegetable oil issue to this House, the CS Courier didn't want to come here. And yesterday you've seen in the papers, even today's paper, the lady in charge of KNTC was arrested because of the same issue, vegetable oil. This country have lost over 15 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. When you see the CSS refusing to come here, there must be definitely something they are hiding. Please, Mr. Speaker, please, you are the father of this House. You are in charge of this House. You are in charge of this Senate. We look at you and see if you are going to take some action. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Kindly take some action. Sansan.
Senator Richard Onyok.
Mr. Speaker, I want to say thank you for allowing me to also talk about this issue. Mr. Speaker, it's very clear that the responsibilities of a senator, other than all the other issues we handle, is a matter of legislation. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that the Senate deals with is a matter of oversight. I've just come in this morning expecting the CS to be here. And I've just found he has not appeared. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I'm quite disappointed because Dr. Ndung'u was my lecturer in the University of Nairobi in the class of economics. And he always used to say that you must be responsible and you always must be on time because those are the qualities of good leadership. I'm quite surprised that he hasn't come. The question I was actually going to ask, or which I had asked on the order paper, Mr. Speaker, is about him telling me whether the government has a G to G agreement which was signed when the negotiations for the purchase of the oil was taking place. The cabinet secretaries must understand that the responsibility they hold and their job primarily, Mr. Speaker, is to serve this country. Even when they have been selected and nominated by the president to actually work on behalf of the president, they are actually answerable to Kenyans. And those questions that Kenyans are asking us are the ones we want the cabinet secretaries to come and give us answers. And that is how that's how democracy is designed. Our democracy is designed, and again, I've just listened to one of my colleagues say that actually this is the issue of cabinet secretaries coming to this house to answer questions was something that President William Ruto personally engaged himself in. And particularly after the ruling, Mr. Speaker, it means that this is something that is now going to take place in this house, and this is a responsibility of the cabinet secretaries. I would really want, Mr. Speaker, for you to put your foot down. I would want our colleagues to realize that we are here not by accident, we are here by design, and let them know that we are going to hold them to account. The responsibility of this house is oversighting the national government and the county governments, and we take that responsibility very, very seriously. Mr. Speaker, I hope your ruling will be drastic, effective, and will achieve results as fast as we deserve them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also rise to make comments on this. Honorable Speaker, the President basically is the one who requested this House and even National Assembly to amend the standing order so that the CSS may come to this House and answer questions instead of the chairman of the committees or chairs of committees getting responses and coming to reply on the floor of the House. Honorable Speaker, it is deploring that this is not the first time. Even in the past, they have not been coming. And today we expected 3 CSs in this House to come and answer questions. I know most of them, when they are invited by National Assembly, they run there. But when they are invited by Senate, it's like they look for opportunities, they look for excuses so that they don't come to this House. Honorable Speaker, they cannot use COP28 as an excuse, because if the President himself is going to Dubai and the CS in charge of environment, I don't see the reason why the others are going there, and we are trying to have austerity measures to save money. Honorable Speaker, some of us were also invited. The climate change caucus of this House nominated some of us, but we could not go because there are no resources. How come most of all the CSs, more than 50%, want to go to Dubai for COP28 to waste resources? Honorable Speaker, you need to crack the whip, because these CSs will not take us serious if we just let it go the way they think that will excuse them. We need to find them. We need to censor them, Honorable Speaker. And we should not also allow the so-called CSs, Honorable Speaker, to come to the House, because the standing orders are very clear. The cabinet secretaries on the standing order, there is nothing like a CS. It is the cabinet secretaries who are supposed to come and answer in the House. Yes. So, Honorable Speaker, be firm and crack the whip, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as my colleague Chair Transport had said earlier, about some governors who were senators in this House, the governor for Nakuru, the governor for Nairobi, the governor for Kiambu, they are also very notorious. When they are invited to committees, they don't come. So we need also to ask the chairs, crack the whip, find them, and censor them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Eddy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today in the morning, I resumed my session, football session, in preparation for, Yala games that are coming in just about a week. And Mr. Speaker, as you know, we don't have any field to be able to train. So we keep on moving from one place to another. And today in the morning, I was training around Magadi Road. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I had to really rush to get here. Through your honor, may you just give me an opportunity to actually welcome the team from Migori. I'm very proud of these members of the delegated duties in the county assembly, and I hope that I'll get time to talk with them in our own tradition in Parliament here. But Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of rushing to get to this house, I also noticed that we actually are having a second week since the court did pronounce itself on the tussle that was between the minority side and the majority side on the issue of whether it was right constitutionally for the cabinet secretaries to be able to appear in this house. And indeed, the court did rule that it is actually okay, to the extent that now you can see the members of the minority side coming. But I do notice that since the ruling, this is the second Wednesday that the members of minority have been coming. And those two consecutive sessions, the members of the cabinet have been behaving in a very funny way. They don't appear. Mr. Speaker, if you go unanswered, you realize that even while the matter was in court, I was always able to come to the house and just listen to what is going on. And I used to notice that the members of the cabinet secretaries used to come religiously and attend their meetings here. I'm beginning to think that perhaps it used to be a tete-a-tete between colleagues from the Kenya Kwanza side. It was just a dialogue, that there was no interrogation, there was no nuance perhaps in terms of engaging the cabinet secretaries. But now that the opposition is here to interrogate, to scrutinize, to be able to actually ask the right questions, they are running from the house, Mr. Speaker. And this is the problem that we had seen. And actually, this also indicts the so-called prime cabinet secretary. Because, Mr. Speaker, the work of the prime cabinet secretary is actually to be able, I'm saying so-called because it's not in the constitution, but it was created anyway. We disputed it as members of the minority side. But now that it's there, Article 153 of the Constitution on decisions, responsibilities, and accountability of the cabinet lies squarely with the prime cabinet secretary, because his duty is to be able to supervise and ensure that the members of the cabinet can actually come to this house and answer questions and be held to account. So it is an indictment and a big failure on Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. And before we deal with these individual cabinet secretaries, Mr. Speaker, there has to be a letter from your desk, perhaps directly to the prime cabinet secretary, that is doing very poorly and is embarrassing the entire cabinet because his members are not showing to this house. But more specifically, Mr. Speaker, as I finish, I think that I have seen in other committees that I've been in, whereby if we invite different officials in government and they don't show up, we actually very religious also in terms of actually punishing. We punish by summon because we are mandated to do so. We punish by fines because we are mandated to do so. Mr. Speaker, the censorship that I'm expecting under Standing Order number 51D is a censorship that goes with punishing these cabinet secretaries with fines. And Mr. Speaker, I hope that these fines can not only be for the House, but also somebody like Senator Kinyua and Senator Chute. On that fine, Mr. Speaker, if you can be, courteous enough, you can be able to make sure that Senator Kinyua gets his 500,000, Senator Chute gets his 500,000, Senator Gloria gets his 500,000, Majority Leader gets his 1 million, so that they know that this house is a very serious house, that people must learn to respect our time, because that time is extremely valuable. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support I support the censorship from your desk to these cabinet secretaries. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honorable senators, I have taken time to allow a number of us to ventilate on this particular matter. Indeed, it is very serious. Now, if you look at the three letters that are referred to this morning, none of them contained a reason that is an emergency. Meaning, all the three CSs, they knew that they were not going to appear before the Senate many days ago. Courtesy demands that they ought to have communicated to the Senate so that when we were sitting in SBC, we could have then dropped their questions because under their request and picked other CSs for purposes of responding to their questions today. Now, honorable senators, we have over 60 questions in the queue. We could not pick other questions because we were convinced yesterday when we sat in SBC, in fact, not yesterday, last week, we were convinced because there was no communication to the contrary that the CSS will appear before this House for purposes of responding to these questions. Indeed, receiving this communication this morning is the epitome of discourteous. Now, honorable senators, this House is not a house of lamentations. It is a house of actions. But our action must rest either on the Constitution, statutory law, or our standing orders. Many of you standing to contribute to this particular point of order invited me to be firm on the CSs. I have come through the Constitution, statutory law, and a standing order to see where the Speaker can be able to punish these CSs. If I had any powers to punish these CSs, honorable senators, that day would be now, not tomorrow, as you had invited me. Now, honorable senators, I will invite you to our standing orders, more particularly Standing Order 51D. 51D. Now, the punishment that our CS invites for non-attendance for purposes of responding to this question is contained in our standing order, more particularly Standing Order 51D, a motion of censure. Now, honorable senators, the Speaker of this House cannot file a motion. I can only moderate debate, facilitate debate, to make sure you do the right thing. If indeed, honorable senators, you are persuaded that the behavior of these CSs is unbecoming, invoke Standing Order 51D. As your Speaker, I'll be here to moderate that motion. In that motion, you may resolve any punishment. You can pass a resolution that these CSs be fined to the extent of whatever amount of money this House will resolve. How I wish I have the powers to punish these CSs. I will do it today. So, honorable senators, please do not allow this House to be disobeyed. Kindly invoke Standing Order 51D, and as a Speaker, I'll be here to moderate that debate. But this behavior cannot be left unpunished. I hope in the coming days on my desk, I'll see a motion. I will not hesitate to approve that motion of censure. So, honorable senators, do the right thing. Thank you. Honorable Clerk, next order, please.